Dear Reddit, what is the worst thing you have said during a breakup? She was breaking up with me, and I told her, you know you are right, and I agree, we aren't very compatible, and our relationship has been on the decline for some time. Those were my true thoughts and feelings. I felt a sense of relief when she broke up with me because I realized it was the best move for the both of us. So why was this the worst thing to say? It ended up making her want to double down on the relationship. I was bombarded with non-stop texts, phone calls, unannounced visits to my apartment. All of that. Apparently breaking up things amicably was not how she wanted to go. I think she was adamant she left with the upper hand. My ex used to make comments about raping me. I told him I was done and he wouldn't stop messaging me everywhere. And I mean everywhere. He even sent me money to write apologies in the notes section. He then told me he was going to kill me if he sees me with another man. And started messaging my family members. So I sent his nudes to his mom and told his mom he needed help. I even sent the text message progression to show that he sent nudes a lot out of nowhere. Thank God I never sent that weirdo anything. His mom called and left voicemails praying for me and apologizing, but I didn't respond. He still sends me letters to this day asking me to come back. I've never wanted someone to die in my life. Yes, sending the nudes to his mom wasn't cool, but my God, I wanted this dude to just leave me alone. So we had already broken up at this point. I was torn up about it, but we ended on fairly good terms because I'm not about to tell anyone how to live their life. Not long after we went for a bike ride down a local trail, it was nice. Then we returned home. Just before she left we talked for a bit, but then the last thing she said was, you know, it's weird. I like you more now than when we were going out. Then she looked thoughtful for a second, then we said our goodbyes. That completely emotionally devastated me. To hear that even when I'm doing better I am still not enough, but also maybe we still have a chance, at least that's how I understood it at the time, and I effectively said nothing. So if you are breaking up with someone you know loves you, or at least thinks they do not give them hope. That kind of hope will destroy someone. Just end it, end all of it. And if you are on the receiving end, don't say nothing, speak up about how things make you feel, especially if you want to keep being their friend or what have you. I was in a really toxic relationship with someone who tried making me feel responsible for their happiness and wouldn't let me go a day without constantly trying to be by my side. He had some pretty strong abandonment issues, and when I finally had had enough of being treated like a therapist I broke it off, to which he said I was abandoning him, and I said maybe if you were someone worth being around, the people around you wouldn't be itching to leave you. Edit: a few people are claiming this was too cruel, so let me explain it once and for all. Firstly, I wanted it to be over and done with, and tried to leave it peacefully, but he decided he wanted to make it into a huge argument where things did get heated. I wouldn't have said it if it weren't for how high the emotions were at the time. Second, I don't regret saying it at all. He had it coming for a long time. I've explained it in comments already, but I'll lay it out here. He was not just clingy and annoying, he was controlling and a narcissist who made my every waking hour about himself. He made me his personal therapist, responsible for his happiness at any cost to my own mental health, sent me into 3 separate episodes of paranoid psychosis, controlled who I talked to and when, and I was not allowed to talk to my friends without him being present. He forced himself on me physically and intimately. He would control the clothes I wore and the way I did my hair, and it got to the point I was self-harming after being clean for over 3 years, and made me attempt suicide several times before one of my friends was smart enough to beg that I leave him before I ended up dead. He was and still is a worthless piece of trash, and nobody can make me feel sorry for pain I might have caused him after what he did to me. I said our values are too different, you're a racist cunt, and I hope your life crumbles. This was after she screamed a slur at a black guy for walking in the road while we drove around him. She also made awkward racist diatribes against Mexican men. And with these events happening within maybe 24 hours, I thought, okay, yeah, she racist, time to leave. So she'd do these talks about our relationship, and it was always the same garbage. So I interrupted her with the above, cut the cord, asked her to leave. She did. Then she slammed me on social media. I replied with some screenshots she sent me of some racist shit, and people quickly turned against her. She ended up reaching out to me a few times a year later trying to get me back. It was weird, she was still awful, so I pushed her away and blocked. Then she dated some other guy. The guy started reaching out to me. I guess she was still hung up because he'd tell me what she said about our relationship. He seemed alright, but he started seeing some flags, and I guess she expanded her racist tirade market to include Asians because he told me about it, so I let him know my experience with her. He broke up with her the next day. I saw his relationship status go to single on FB, and silently clapped for him. I don't necessarily regret what I said, but I've never been that hostile towards someone during a breakup. Most of mine were amicable, so this was new territory and absolutely loathing someone. For some much needed context. I was, I guess, this lady's situationship. We were together for like 8 or 9 months, and we lived together for a lot of that. Me, her and her 3-year-old son be every night I would give unreciprocated affection. She'd say her feet hurt and I'd massage them, and only once did the favor get returned. I slept on the couch. We were never more intimate than a kiss that entire time. Meanwhile, I was a financial avenue for her to leech onto to support her son. She'd do nasty stuff like tell him to say racial/hate slurs for her entertainment. Made me fucking sick. The more I reflect on this, the more I realize how god-awful blinded I was. She drank Fireball every night, so I started doing it too and ended up an alcoholic for 8 years. We were living in a trailer my dad was going to sign over to me, but we broke up and I found out he was signing it over to her because she was now a single mom with no support. Shocker, and it was the Christian thing to do. I'm a really collected person, but that made me see red. I felt incredibly betrayed and fucked over. Last night in that trailer she was making snide remarks about how it's her house now, and I, through tears and hardly able to speak, told her she's lucky I don't burn the trailer to the ground. Of course I'd never do that and she knows it, yet started telling her son that dude, that's what he called me, is trying to kill you. 9 years later and fuck that chick. Her best friend even cautioned me early on, saying her mother taught them both how to manipulate men from a young age. Fucking sickening, and I feel so bad for B. When explaining to my ex-wife why I wanted out, she wasn't having any of what I was saying. Which was all 100% truth, I just had a hard time putting it into words. We weren't compatible, and as time went on it was obvious to me. It was honestly as simple as that, but that's a hard one to really put into words when on the surface we were a happy couple. Even now, 20 plus years later, I'm having a hard time explaining it without going into an even longer diatribe. At one point when she was countering everything I was saying, I mentioned her weight. As soon as the words came out of my mouth, I regretted it and tried to pull it back, but you can't unring that bell. It was a desperate grasp at explaining why I wasn't happy even though she was an amazing person. I still regret that to this day. Edit, for clarity. Her weight had absolutely nothing to do with my wanting to leave. She was still very attractive to me and wasn't skinny when I first met her. She was curvy and always had been curvy. It's not like I found her unattractive because she may have put on a few pounds. I was just grasping at straws as I was having a hard time explaining why I wanted out, and that's where my primitive mind went for some reason.